Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Colette. Discover the world. Guided travel since 1918.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, wherever you happen to be. As you see, we happen to be in Illinois because I'm here shooting our 7-part multi-series that'll be premiering later this year in November called Hidden Route 66. So for the last 2 weeks, we've been shooting in Oklahoma, in Missouri. Now we're in Illinois, heading towards Chicago, but of course we'll stop in Springfield and Joliet first. We already shot in Texas. We've already shot in New Mexico and California. So look for your PBS announcement sometime in early November as the Mother Road, Route 66, actually celebrates its 100th birthday in November, and we'll be on the air for 7 weeks in a row with that series called Hidden Route 66. You saw the introduction, the Ariston Cafe. What a cool place that is. It's right walking distance from where I am right now, where we went for dinner last night, the oldest continuing operating cafe on Route 66. It was actually opened in 1924, 3 years before Route 66 even opened. But lots of stuff to talk about that later on. We have much more important things to talk about now in the news. So let's go there. The Iranian peace deal, I'll put that in quotes. The memorandum of understanding, whatever that means. What is that going to mean to your airline prices as the oil starts to drop? We have seen it drop about $10 a barrel right now over the last 24 to 36 hours. Stock market reacting as well. What is that going to do to your airline ticket prices? It's a Spanish word. It starts with an N, ends with an A. Nada. It's not going to go down. And the reason for that is, let's go back a couple of weeks when the airlines canceled thousands of flights, removing them permanently from their schedule. So reducing flights, frequencies, in some cases, even the size of the planes they're using on those routes. While more people may be traveling right now, not that many more, planes are all full, right? They got nowhere else to go. So law of supply and demand kicks in. Fares stay high. International fares up almost 47% on some routes. Domestic fares up almost 26%. This goes back to February. Remember, that's just an average. On some routes, the fares are tripled domestically. That's crazy. A fare that was about $800, I'll give you an example. A fare that was $800 from New York to Johannesburg in February is now $2,700. That's coach. Want to know what it is in business class? Are you sitting? $17,000. And the airlines are getting it. I have no idea who's paying this. That's not a ticket. That's a Toyota. Remember that. All right. So that's what's going on with the air tickets. Gas prices for your car, they are going to come down. In some cases, they're down about $4 now to about $4. Although in California, when I refilled my tank 2 weeks ago, it was $7.01 a gallon. Yikes. Of course, Americans are addicted to their cars. We're going to drive no matter what those gas prices are. We'll have to make other choices in the process. But when it comes to airline tickets, those differentials are scary. And they will have an effect on who's going to be able to literally afford to get on a plane. Now, you will see some pop-up sales domestically. Southwest had one about 2 weeks ago. But they're really true pop-ups for incremental revenue on a limited number of seats, on a limited number of flights. You're going to have to watch that carefully. But if you're thinking of what you're going to do this summer, and basically it's almost summer, right? Or what, 3 days before the longest day of the year, right? June 21st, you better book your tickets now. Airfares are not going to be going down. The earliest they may come down is October. Now, let's talk about oil. If the Strait of Hormuz is opened, gas prices still will not stabilize. Fuel prices may still not stabilize for 6 to 9 months. Remember, there's a supply chain issue and a refinery issue. So, don't get out the celebratory, the celebrations yet, because nothing to celebrate. That's what's going on with air tickets and gas prices. And then some other things I want to talk about in the news, because when I talked about this last week, it was about something that happened to me. I got angry. I should have gotten angry because the airline didn't take responsibility. The airline didn't tell the truth, and the airline's still not accountable. It's now happened to 2 other people who work with me, and it's maybe even happened to you. It's happening a lot, where the airlines are coming up with different definitions of terms to get off the hook when their planes are delayed or canceled so that they don't have to provide any sort of compensation. Now, the way things are structured right now, most of the time they don't have to provide any compensation anyway. There is no official delineated adequate airline passenger bill of rights. It's never happened. We need it to happen. But if the airline has something that happens that's under their operational responsibility, then they are required in many cases to do something about it, to protect you and to also compensate you. The question is, what comes under operational responsibility? Well, let's talk about that. Weather, that's their get out of jail free card, right? If there's weather, that's an act of God. They're not responsible. But what constitutes weather? And this is where it gets interesting. You get to the airport. It's a beautiful sunny day. You're there 2.5 hours earlier for your 9 a.m. flight, and the plane's canceled because of weather, and it's 20/20 visibility. Can the airline get off the hook? Well, where's your flight coming from, right? Most people still think mistakenly that plane's been waiting for them for 3 days, like the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, the voyage to the New World. Where's that plane coming from? And where's the weather there? But why should you be responsible for the way the airlines schedule their flights before it ever came to your airport? Shouldn't they only be responsible, as far as you're concerned, with the flight leaving your airport? Nobody's calling them to task for that. There's no accountability. And what the airlines have been using in the last couple of months, which really gets my nerves up, is air traffic control congestion. That's their excuse. But let's dig a little deeper. How did air traffic control congestion happen? Because the airlines are allowed to schedule without responsibility all their flights, right? There's not a runway in the world that can accommodate more than 23 takeoffs in any given hour, given 2.5 minutes between takeoffs. Do the math. So why are the airlines allowed to schedule 40 departures at 8 a.m.? It's not even realistic. It's not possible. So if you're on that 38th departure, you better bring a book. You'll be able to finish it. But that doesn't go back to where the responsibility and the accountability is. What are they doing about that? What's the U.S. Department of Transportation doing about coming up with a definition of terms about air traffic control congestion or weather? Now, if the airline has a mechanical on their plane, we had one on mine the other day, a flat tire. If the airline's missing a crew member, or a crew member is sick, or there's no gate space, well, that is under the airline's operational responsibility. They should be required to do something about that. But you know what? How many times have they been waiting for a gate, the plane's delayed or canceled, and they're claiming air traffic congestion? That's not air traffic congestion. That's bad scheduling on the part of the airlines. They know how many gates they have at every airport. They know how long it takes to turn a plane, and they're not doing it, right? Look, I'm not going to sit here and argue for re-regulation, but I am going to argue. Let me get down to deregulation for a second. I'm all in favor of airlines being free to fly anywhere they want, to charge anything that the market will allow or not allow, to fly to whatever schedule they want to do, as long as it fits within the capacity limits of the system itself, right? So no one should be able to tell an airline where they can fly, right? That was the beauty of deregulation. Nobody can decide which airline can fly. That's the beauty of deregulation, or what they're going to charge. I get that. But if you publish an unrealistic schedule to begin with, then you need to be responsible for that when that schedule proves the point that you can't do that. And that's not what's being done here. Now, speaking of accountability, I'll give you the flip side of that story. And it's how an airline took responsibility for one of their big mistakes. This goes back about 6 months ago. Does anybody remember the story of the 2 Japan Airlines pilots who not only showed up at the airport with alcohol on their breath, they were basically smashed, fall on your face drunk? Obviously, they got caught, and the airline was so embarrassed by this that the CEO not only apologized, but took a 30% pay cut. And as a result, JAL issued an edict to every employee They could not drink any alcohol 12 hours before, within 12 hours of their flight, and they could not show up at the airport having any alcohol. Guess what happened a couple of weeks ago? On a domestic flight, 2 flight attendants on a layover decided to have drinks and a few more drinks. Guess what? They got caught. The CEO just took another 30% pay cut. So did the head of safety, took a 20% pay cut, and the operations person, chief, took a 10% pay cut. It sends the right message. If you don't have severe financial consequences for bad behavior, the bad behavior continues. So I salute JAL for taking responsibility, and hopefully that message will get heard. But at least they're sending the message, and it's a real message with tangible aspects to it. All right, so much for that. Now, at the same time, as airfares are going up, no reasons for the airlines to celebrate yet. The first quarter results are now in, and for the 22 scheduled airlines that are monitored, they combined lost about $1 billion in the first quarter of this year. That'll tell you what's going on out there. It's still not resolved, and it still may not be resolved, as I said earlier, for the next 6 to 9 months. And even when it is, don't count on airfares dropping or the baggage fees that they increased. They're here to stay. But hopefully there'll be some new airlines starting. We always like new airlines. We always like more competition. And speaking of that, believe it or not, in the midst of all this madness, Delta, Alaska, Breeze, and other airlines just announced 15 new routes. We love that, right? Anchorage to Boston and Seattle and Austin. A lot of good flights going out there now. New ones, we love that. We love more competition, especially nonstop flights on previously unserved routes. We always like that anytime we can get that. Okay, now, one more thing I want to give you a caution about, and it's a story that is not being reported. We all know about consumer credit card debt. It's at about $1.7 trillion right now and counting, with credit cards that average 26% interest. How many people are charging their air travel on credit cards and not paying their bills in full every month? About 49% of you. That's why the banks are making so much money. 26%. If I loaned you money at 26%, I would go to prison. But the banks, under the law, are able to charge up to 30% interest. That's compounded. That's not even simple interest. That's scary. So what are we seeing? A huge number, a big increase in credit card defaults. If you're financing your travel on a credit card, it's not a good idea. It's going to come back to bite you bigger and bigger every time. You know, the buy now, pay later scheme, as much as we love to travel, not a good idea. And as we see more and more defaults, we're seeing more and more people unable to travel. Think about that. So something you want to know about, we're going to be monitoring that, because one of the proposals that Trump came up with, which went nowhere, but you got to love it, was he wanted a 10% cap on consumer credit card interest. And of course, what did the credit, and they wanted some other fees waived as well. What did the credit card companies and banks say? Oh, if you do that, we may have to end the frequent flyer program. That's a lie. No way would they end that program. They make too much money from it. The airlines make too much money from it. Those are here to stay. That doesn't mean they're valid, good programs. That doesn't mean they get to deliver the promise that they made. They don't, generally. But the point is, we have to deal with this consumer credit card limit. It's terrible. And please do your best not to finance your travel. Not a good idea. Let's go down and say hello to some folks. Jim and Harriet, they're number one today, but they're not coming from Nantucket. Okay, hope you're having a great time. Michelle wants to know, am I at the Knicks parade? No, but you got to hand it to the Knicks. Unbelievable. I'm still trying to get over the game 4, the biggest comeback in NBA Finals history. Unreal. Game 5. Excuse me. Was that game 3? That was game 3. Game 4 is the one they lost. Game 5 is the one they won on the road. Amazing, amazing story there. Hats off to the Knicks. Jeffrey, do I know of any travel insurance policies or companies that would cover medical bills, delayed or canceled flights, war, and a global pandemic? The answer is a qualified yes. Look, There are a number of travel insurance companies that offer specific coverage for that, but they do have exclusions. You need to read the policy language carefully. Now, there's trip cancellation and interruption insurance, and there's also medical evacuation and medical evacuation and repatriation coverage. Two separate kinds of policies. I carry both. You should carry both. But I'm not going to tell you which to get because your situation may be different than mine. Your personal medical history is certainly different than mine. And the exclusions as to where you want to go or how you want to get there may be different than mine. So you need to go and check the companies out. You do not do that online. Go to a travel agent or a travel advisor. They may not be able to sell you the insurance under state insurance laws, but they certainly can read the policy language for you and tell you what is covered and, most importantly, what's not covered. Okay? By the way, if you're holding a premium credit card, American Express, Chase Sapphire, Capital One, like the Venture X card, they have perks there too that cover delayed and lost baggage, lost items that most people don't even know about. There's even a provision on the American Express Platinum card up to $800 for replacing your lost cell phone. How about that? Who knew? Check it out. But read the policy language carefully. All right. Linda saying, hi from a strangely cloudy day in Naples, Florida. Okay. Paul is saying, greetings from Amtrak's Northeast Regional somewhere in Northern Virginia. And the Amtrak and the Wi-Fi is working. All right. Okay, Paul. Melanie saying hi from a very hot and steamy Miami. And thank you for those nice words, Melanie. Camilla's saying, paddling my sea kayak in Monterey this morning while talking to me. I'm honored. Our good friend Charlie Winham, of course, where is he? In Baton Rouge. Hello, Charlie. Randy's saying we're back in Ann Arbor, back from transatlantic cruise from Southampton on the Queen Mary 2. Great trip. I'm glad to hear it. Hope the seas were kind. Joshua's saying greetings from Uganda. You know what? I send you greetings. Uganda is one of those countries right now affected, at least in the words of, or in the world of world perception, by Ebola, along with South Sudan and Democratic Republic of Congo. On our radio show this week, we'll be talking to our travel doctor, Norm Eston, who will give you the breakdown, what you really need to know about what you'd be concerned about and not concerned about in terms of Ebola. So listen up on that. That's the day after tomorrow. I'll have more information on that in a minute. Okay. Michelle is saying I have a cruise in late February out of Galveston. Should airfares be better by November, December for February or March? I'll give you a qualified yes. Historically, the answer would be yes, right? But no guarantees. Again, you need airfare to Galveston or you live in Galveston. Let me know what you're doing. I don't think you live in Galveston. I think you're cruising out of Galveston. So let me know. All right, Scott saying hi from Plainfield. When in downtown Joliet, check out the intersection where Route 66 and Lincoln Highway meet, not to mention the prison. Let's not forget the Blues Brothers. Thank you for that, Scott. Paul says, also in Joliet, my mom's hometown, check out the Rialto Theater and the Amtrak station. We'll do that. Okay. Somebody's saying hi from San Jose. Yvette's saying greetings from Las Vegas, New Mexico. And someone's saying hi from Anaheim. Tammy's saying hi from San Diego. NASCAR's in town. And the Coronado Keys. Okay. She meant the Coronado Naval Base. We know Coronado. You're talking about the air station? Probably. North Island? Let me know. Okay. Camilla says, I put my phone in a clear dry bag. I understand why. Mary's saying hi from smoky Eastern Washington. And Jeffrey's saying, what islands in Thailand would you recommend to visit for a first-time visitor? Well, you're going to fly first down to Phuket, and then you want to go out to Koh Krabi. That's Krabbe. Koh Phi Phi, that's Phiphi. And of course, the old standby Koh Samui. If you have money and you want to really indulge yourself, check out an amazing hotel. It's called Pulay Bay, Phulay, Pulay Bay. It's part of the Ritz-Carlton Reserve Collection. You're going to get spoiled. Oh my goodness. I long to get back there. But those 3 islands you'll be fine. Okay. Oh yes, I live in New York, flying to Houston for Galveston cruise. Yeah, and the trip from Houston to Galveston's about an hour on I-45. So just so you know. Kristen saying hello from sunny Bellingham, Washington. And Tammy says, yes, North Island. By the way, if you're staying at the famous Del Coronado, Hotel Del, and you're in one of their villas, open the door, a direct view of the Navy planes landing on North Island. It's so cool. Mary says, my son is flying back to France soon. He is on a visa. Does he have to do the electronics registration for return to the EU? If he hasn't done it already, the answer is yes, he does. Is he a U.S. citizen? Then the answer is yes, he does. Okay, and remember, some of those lines get long. They still haven't figured out the registration lines to get that new, the new electronic entry system where they take your photograph, they do your fingerprints, they do a biometric read. But then once you do it, you're in. No more long lines at the border protection and control. It's e-gate time, and you're in. Of course, for the sentimentalists out there like me, no more passport stamps either. Just so you know. Okay, a couple of things I also want to talk about. This goes back to COVID days, but you know what? No more important than now. Those of you who think that the plane stayed overnight waiting for you, that's delusional. Usually they had 20 minutes before you got on because it came in from somewhere else, which meant they did a terrible job of cleaning it, right? You never want to open that seat back pouch in front of you to see the treasures that were left there for you. So get some extra antibacterial handy wipes. And before you ever sit down, it's going to take you only about a minute. You wipe down both the top and the bottom of the tray table, the armrests, the seat backs, the headrest, and the seat cushion. Anything that your skin is going to touch. Otherwise, it's the bar scene from Star Wars in terms of bacteria. And a little note about the water. And I say this all the time. I'm a big fan of drinking as much water as I can on the plane for all the obvious dehydration reasons. But unless you actually see the flight attendant, witness the flight attendant snapping off the top of a closed bottle and pouring that water into the cup, don't drink it. Because so many times the airlines will run out of bottled water on the plane and then use the holding tank water. Not good. Same applies, by the way, to washing your hands in the bathroom. That holding tank water, at least in those areas, because of improper inspection and cleaning on many airlines, can have as many as 50 different bacterial strains on board. Not good. So use only hot water to wash your hands and make it as boiling hot as you can without hurting yourself. Otherwise, you're doing yourself no favors. Now, what about drinking the coffee on a plane? Well, that water's already boiled. It may not taste great, maybe a little too tinny or metallic, but it's not unhealthy because the water has been boiled. Okay, that on that. Oh, a little housekeeping note. As you know, season 11 of our Travel Detective is now airing on PBS, Amazon, Apple TV, and YouTube. Here's a trailer for the next episode. This week on The Travel Detective, it's known as the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, but few visitors to the UK understand the city's rich and robust and living history in science, the arts, literature, and sport. So come along for the ride as I share with you some of my hidden gems of Manchester. That's our cover story.
Plus, it's located in the heart of Rome, with a rich history dating back to the 17th century. Correspondent Kerry Sanders checks us in to the Orient Express La Minerva, a true hotel with a past. And then, it's one of the most vibrant forms of culture you can experience. And it's all free. We travel across the globe in search of the world's best street art. I'm Peter Greenberg. All this and more on the next edition of The Travel Detective on PBS. Check your local listing.
And of course, I mentioned the radio show coming this Saturday. We'll be talking about the latest on the Iran peace deal, what it means to your airline tickets, and any changes on that. But we're also going to talk about Ebola and what you should know, what you should be concerned about, and also what you should not be concerned about in terms of planning your travels. We'll also deal with the hantavirus, and not to mention the norovirus, and what's going on cruise ships around the world, as well as what's not going on cruise ships around the world. Sandy Collins saying hi from Charlotte. Tammy says, my birthday is the 4th of July. Any recommendations if wanting to travel for a few weeks in July, not too hot, not too cold, maybe Norway or Australia or New Zealand? Well, first of all, happy early birthday. By the way, you share that with my late mother. Her birthday was July 4th as well. And last night at the Ariston Cafe, I met up with a woman. She's 95. She turns 96 on July 4th. And doing the story on Route 66, she had her very first date there with her husband in 1944. And she was with him ever since. But their very first date was at the Ariston Cafe. So a very early birthday to her. She turned 96 on July 4th. The answer to your question is, don't just concentrate on Australia or New Zealand. Concentrate on South America. That's also Southern Hemisphere. Go skiing in Chile. It's pretty cool down there, literally in July and August. So that would be a recommendation as well. Okay. Bottom line is, it's time to go to the photo of the week. And this one's got an interesting story. And congratulations to Marla Teresa. Maria, is it Maria? It is Maria Teresa. I apologize for that. She writes, I'm currently cruising the Norwegian fjords aboard the Hurtigrutens ship. While visiting Nordkapp, I took a photo of the famous Globe Monument, which was completely shrouded in thick fog. And it wasn't until later, back on the ship, that I noticed a surprise visitor in the frame. It was a bird. A resident bird expert on board identified it as a snow bunting, a hardy Arctic bird from a family whose name I can't pronounce. Sorry about that. Spotting this beautiful little creature hidden in the mist felt incredibly rare, magical, and unforgettable. Maria, that's great. Thank you for sending that in. We loved it too. And if you think you've got a photograph that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do. Send it to photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree with you, then it goes right up there next to Maria's. We appreciate that as well. Again, Travel Detective Season 11 now screening on PBS, Amazon, Apple TV, and YouTube. The radio show this Saturday with all the latest news updates and answers to your questions, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It also streams live on our website, petergreenberg.com. We're going to continue our trip. I have to tell you one other story. This is too much fun. As you go down Route 66, there's the old Route 66, the repositioned Route 66, and then, of course, the interstate that came in later. But in St. Louis, we were driving down Route 66, which parallels the Amtrak trains, right? Not a surprise there. Where do both go right by? Busch Stadium. And there's so much Route 66 history where the Cardinals play, right? Stan Musial used to live right on Route 66. Stan the Man, number 6. So many players, got to their Hall of Fame days by going on Route 66. And you can take Amtrak right by there. We could drive right by there. And guess what? When we were there, the Cardinals were playing. So we went to the game. They were playing the Padres. They actually beat the Padres. And just for kicks, it was my first time at Busch Stadium. Look what I got. Oh, a first game certificate. Not to mention the pin. Just had to share that. Thank you to all the guys in the St. Louis Cardinals and for giving me my little stadium pin and my little certificate. But other stories to be told, including the Cardinals and Busch Stadium on Route 66 this November when our show premieres. Again, radio show this Saturday. We'll see you next week from another distant location somewhere around the world. It'll be a surprise as well. We're getting on an airplane tomorrow. What a surprise. We'll see you on the radio on Saturday. In the meantime, any other questions you've got, feel free to send them in. Peter@petergreenberg.com. We'll answer them as soon as we can. In the meantime, have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon.